So pound Australia, we got a trade yesterday, but then the trade got out at break even. However, I want you to know that, sometimes things like that happen, right? You then start to question, so should I still sell or should I be looking to buy right now? Okay. I want you to, whenever you have a trade you entered and then the trade outcome is that you exited that, whether is it profitable, break even, losing, okay? You want to then come back to this chart and look at it at a refreshed point of view, which means forget about what was the trade that you took back then. Look at it objectively right now as a fresh perspective, which means think of it like, oh, I don't have a trade, right? Think of it as now you look at this chart, what will you do? Okay, so that's why you sometimes hear me say, right, even though we have a trade, we enter, we break even, or we got out on a small loss, or we trail it, we end up with profitable, but we never have our full take profit. You sometimes still hear me say that, oh, nothing has changed, right? So that is the part where structurally everything is still intact, right? If you take a look at it from a daily, it's still telling me the direction that I want to focus is downside. Nothing has changed. On the 4-hour time frame, nothing has changed as well, right? This is looking still more like a rejection, though as we speak yesterday, I also shared with you, it's not like the cleanest V shape. But yesterday when we take Euro odd and pound odd, I'm more towards the aggressive side, and I say it's based on the reward ratio. Okay, that's where I say let's take it, right? So same thing over here, nothing has changed. Okay, if you take a look at this piece, it's not very clean, right? It's not like this super clean V shape here. This is more like, okay, it's rejecting, it's not that clean. Okay, then you need to decide whether you want to take it. So that's where we took that trade yesterday. Okay, now to me, nothing has changed. I'm still very much interested in the downside. I think the opportunity downside is still there. The probability is definitely still there. One way again to look for a next opportunity to get in is something like that of a setup. Okay, which is where you can see on the 1 hour impulse, then consolidation, and then we'll take further break. Okay, now we are talking about pound odd here, right? And then of course we have pound kiwi here as well. Now this is the part where I want to bring you again. You need to be always aware. Okay, while we focus a lot on technical, right? I want you to also develop that awareness of, on top of technical, there are other factors that's going to affect the market. Okay, so if today you're not trading FX very actively, if you're looking at stocks, same principle. Okay, don't just look at the chart. There's always more things that is going to affect the market. So today I want you to realize also we have what we call a BOE rate statement. Okay, so Fed, you have that kind of FOMC rate statement, right? So today, 7 p.m., okay, again, depending on where you are, we do have the BOE monetary policy and rate statement. Okay, over here, rate statement. Okay, now unlikely the rates are going to change. However, it's the same as FOMC. We don't expect the interest rate to change, but what's more important is the tone. Okay, what is gonna be stated, okay, from the latest kind of like policy. Okay, so when they start, same thing, right? Same principle you apply. If they start to say, okay, we want to push forward tapering, okay, and we'll probably start increase interest rates sooner than what was initially stated, then the market's going to be bullish. Okay. However, if let's say they start to say, no, we will just continue as usual, then nothing has changed. Okay, maintain everything the same, then maybe the market might see a sell-off. Why? It's because relatively that the Fed is towards a little bit more on the hawkish side, right? When they bring forward the tapering process, they're a little bit going towards hawkish, right? Which is bullish. And then if pound or BOE, Bank of England, is not doing anything, right, and they are maintaining it, then in comparison, okay, pound is looking bearish, okay, or we call it dovish. Okay, so in this case here, this is something that again I want you guys to take note of. Okay, we can use this as also an additional exercise for this week. Okay, a mini challenge to go and keep track of this rate statement again, right? Same thing. You click into this, go to the website. You'll be able to find out about it. Okay, so over here you can see the latest one was May, released in this. Okay, bank rate maintained, same thing as this statement here. It's about 1 page, right? This is maybe a little bit longer, like 1.5 page. But again, it's straightforward. It's important. Okay, so if I just take some time to quickly go through, right? You can see straight out first line they say that their target, their mandate is to hit 2% inflation. Okay, and then of course sustained growth and employment. All major developed banks have this. Okay, 2% inflation target, full employment, right? And of course back then in May, remember this May, not updated yet. The latest one is later this evening. So they say MPC voted to maintain bank rate at 0.1. Okay, and then over here also financed by the issuance of central bank reserve at 20 billion. Okay, in other words, again, corporate bond purchases, QE. Okay, now the structure of BOE and Fed is slightly different. Okay, BOE over here, this is important, right? If you take a look at that, the committee voted by majority 8-1 for the bank to continue its existing program in the bond purchases, which is basically QE, right, over here as well. Okay, so 8-1 is what? Basically, it's a vote, right? So UK, US, they're democratic, so they need to vote to make a count. So the idea here is today we have 8-1, which is 8 decide to continue. Okay, so the idea here, you want to track the latest report that's coming out later this evening. Is this number going to change? Okay, it's just like how the Fed, from 2024 bring forward to 2023, right? So there's a change bringing forward. So over here, if let's say May is 8-1, but let's say going into like June, the later that's going to release, right? From 8, it dropped to 7, which means there are people who wants to maybe bring forward, okay, the tapering. Okay, and then that's also a hawkish sign. Okay, so understand every bank will have slightly different structure. Okay, so England here, they always go by like vote. Okay, you can see over here as well in terms of this MPC asset purchase facility votes. Okay, 018. So 8 here is the one that is from previous. Okay, so if let's say there's a number change, maybe to 7 to 6, it's actually a bit hawkish, right? Because they are initially right now buying asset purchase QE. And majority of them voted to maintain. So if the number drops, means less members are voting to maintain. Okay, so that means likely you might see some bullish sentiment coming in if this number change for today. All right, so that is something you want to take note of for BOE, right? BOE is slightly different on that. So everything else you can see over here, some of the projection is pretty important in a number as well, and you want to track if there's a change. So you can see over here, they say that they expect the GDP in the UK to fall, to have fallen around 1.5% in Q1. Okay, less than what they assume in Feb. Okay, so you want to then also track, right, their expectation. Okay, because again, economic growth expectation will lead to inflation. Inflation will lead to the bank start to do certain things in their monetary policy. Okay, so over here, they actually expect GDP, this is in May, right? So they expect GDP to rise sharply in Q2. Okay, and of course, however, they say that it's likely to maintain an average around 5% below its level in Q4, right? So again, they give some numbers over here. They have some expectation. Now, if you read the latest report that's going to be released later, you want to also track what is their expectation. Is there a shift? If they say that, whoa, things are beating the expectation, they expect inflation to kick in a little bit more, growth in the economy, GDP is growing faster than what they have previously expected. All these are bullish sentiment. Okay. However, if they start to say, the projection was missed, expectation was missed, it seems like it's getting worse because I think, UK is starting to face another lockdown potentially. So this is where you want to really track, okay? Is there a shift, change in the expectation? Yeah. So other than that, this is basically reporting about employment, right? This is where CPI inflation, right? You can see. So it's rising everywhere. Inflation is kicking in. Okay, however, you want to track them right now is more of what they think about this. Okay, so last time they reported that this rise is temporary. Okay, above 2% towards end of 2021. So you want to then now check, is this still temporary, or the central bank is starting to be concerned, right? So this is again similar case in the US. Okay, so other than that, nothing much, right? So the rest of it are just basically stating the summary of it. Yeah. So again, I want you to know that reading this report is important, but it's not going to be complex. Okay. A lot of people are afraid of understanding reports like that, but it's going to be helpful. Okay, because it's going to give you some idea as to what the central bank is doing. Now, why I want to bring this up is because if you're looking at pound Australia, pound New Zealand, there will be the volatility, right? Just like last week, FOMC, if you look at the dollar, there will be volatility. Okay, and because we are so close to that, okay, which is really today, right, this evening, very likely the market will probably not move much until then, okay, until 7 p.m. Okay, so over here, okay, why I want to bring this up is because there might be a good chance that we can ride on this catalyst. Okay, however, there's also risk involved in it, right? So the ideal part here is if let's say we decide to focus on the sell, we put in a sell stop, and before 7, you do not want to get it. Okay, so what I would suggest is if you really want to trade this, okay, whether it's pound or pound kiwi, we're only gonna put in our pending sell stop maybe closer to a 7 p.m. right? The reason is because we do not want to get involved before that. Okay, so maybe by 6:50, okay, 6:50, in the evening you come back and this is still doing its consolidation like that. Perfect. Okay, we can put in a sell stop, and then if let's say the news comes out and we see a spike down, maybe not so big, okay, maybe something like that, then you can shift your stops to break even and then see if this just continue down. Okay, that is like the ideal context, ideal situation. However, you also need to understand, even if let's say by 6:50 something like that develop, you put in a sell stop, this can still happen. Okay, so it takes you in, go back up because of the volatility that is gonna kick in. Okay, and of course you also need to account for the spread because when such a high impact news is released, sometimes the spread might increase a little bit. Okay, so there are obviously risks to kind of like trying to trade this kind of high impact news. Not something that we do very often. Okay, it's just so happened that right now on these two pairs, the technical have like giving us this chance to capitalize on the news. Okay, so this is something that I will do. Okay, but I will not put a pending order before 6:50. Again, the reason here is if before 6:50 the market already start to move, something like that, I do not want to get in before the news because it can easily from here go back up. Okay, then I took an unnecessary trade. Okay, so have that in mind. Okay, what I'll do is I'll put it into the spreadsheet, but I will put in a note not to take this trade first until closer to the news event. Okay, I'll still put that in so that I want you to understand there is this setup, there's this opportunity. What are some of the key levels you are looking out for at this very moment? But we need to see how it develops closer to the news itself. Okay, so hope that's clear. Yeah? So over here, we'll be looking at pound odd. Okay, so we are focusing on the sell direction. The key area is at 1.84. Okay, and 8445, right? So the idea here is that we want price to maintain in between this zone all the way until 650 plus, right? And then if that's the case, then we have an ideal consolidation. Okay, so price has to maintain within this zone until 7. Now, if you look at the daily perspective, the target on a 4-hour time frame, okay, it has massive potential right now. I'll probably need to go to daily. Okay, you can see here, massive opportunity to 7415, right? So we still put it there. Okay, but of course we'll manage this trade along. Okay, so over here we're expecting price to make a move lower after completion of H1 flag, right? This one here, I'll just bracket writing on potential news catalyst. Okay, so that you guys are aware of it. Yeah, so really hope that's clear.